Hi everyone, welcome back to Reference Board, where we take a look at sources of inspiration, break them down, try and see what we can take from them artistically, and just have a nice conversation while we're doing it. So today, let me just roll the generator, see what we're going to be looking at. So that's 11. The generator has given us Marvel's Spider-Man 2. In here, I've got about 87 images. Today, we're going to start with 44. Okay. Now, I should say potential spoilers here. If you haven't played the game or if you're planning to, we're going to have a little conversation about the styles. So now I will zoom in. So immediately, what we're looking at here is the symbiotified version of New York City with tendrils growing out, encompassing the buildings and generally giving everyone a bit of a bad time. Now, artistically, there's not maybe a whole lot to take away from it visually. You can see we have what the level designers have done is they've kind of adjusted the atmospheric settings to make it appropriate for this. So we've got a much moodier, gloomier color profile. If you took a vertical slice of something there, you can kind of see the color of the volume, which potentially has a higher density, but maybe not, because if it was lighter, it would look like a regular atmosphere. But it also gives that kind of Stranger Things vibe to it, like when they're in the upside down and it's got that kind of color grading all over it. Something alien, something uncomfortable. Having the tendrils grow around buildings like this, it helps to give a sense of scale for just how huge things are, especially as it gets larger than the building itself. When I'm looking at something like this, I'm maybe not looking at it specifically for artistic inspiration, but rather, how would I make that? Because structures like these are quite complex challenges. Obviously, the resolution isn't perfect, so don't worry too much about that. But it's such a chaotic, substructure. Obviously, we have one large tendril, which we can imagine just being like a curve. Again, this is a challenge, whether or not it's 3D or 2D. Surrounding that, we've got a bulking and then tendril-like growths that come off of it. A little bit like maybe a meshified solar corona or solar flare, you know what I mean? When you see the pictures or the videos of ejecta from a star, well, the only footage we have is of our sun, right? Then it kind of explodes, grows out, splits, diversifies a little bit, diffuses, falls back in. That's a challenge to recreate. So I think the main value of this reference here is actually looking at this as a challenge more than anything. It's something that I'm sure my friend Ben, Cartesian Caramel, could probably do in geometry nodes in some way, because I've seen them do mimic animations. I wonder if I can find an example of that. Okay, so here's their mimic breakdown. So you can see exactly what we're talking about here. They got points, they're building roots, curving everything to the center, trimming off certain areas to make it more organic, displacing for variation. And in the end, you end up with something which looks kind of like what we're looking at here, which is this growth structure. So multiple curves being displaced for variability and animation is probably the way to go about it. So that would probably be the way to get the symbiote type style. So I'm going to cross that one off and just write challenge as a note. Let's take a look at another one while we're here. 64. Oh, nice. A little bit of hard surface. This reminds me of my old smoke simulation video for Blender. Now, obviously, when people do hard surface with pipes, it's a very easy thing to overdo because they tend to look great and somewhat realistic. And it's easy if you have empty space. You're like, oh, what do I fill it in with? Do I use a complex structure? No, just add more pipes. So in a way, it might be considered lazy design. But imagine that we're from a different perspective. Say we're standing up here above some kind of gangway or whatever. Pipes are fantastic fillers for back spaces, back rooms, if you want to use that term. So if you're looking through a space into an industrial area of purpose, if you know what to put in there, pipes are great, and you can separate them by layers of depth as well. So if you're from a different perspective looking down, as you're moving along, you're going to get a faster movement from closer things and a slower movement from further things, and that's going to give you a parallax as you're moving across. But obviously in this case, we're not at that perspective, we're inside the backspace, which is kind of the point because we're sneaking through this area in this game. So we can point out the storytelling. We got a scratch here, a little bit of blood and a scratch there. This has been broken open with, again, scratch and blood. The reason for this is because we're hunting for someone and we're following on their trail. We can also point out here the lighting, because as we know in video games, lighting is used very often to direct the player's eye and just indicate where they need to go. So when we're further back in the environment, we see this very obvious kind of increase in light. It directs us to come to this area, the eyes drawn down to the storytelling. We follow the flow. We go, oh yes, so we need to move around here as we go. It's also nice to consider if we did think about this as a piece of artwork, then we can try and visualize the possible flows of the viewer attention based on where the areas of higher contrast for lighting are. So again, contrast is the key point here, that if you're doing focal lighting areas, you have something bright with an offset of something dark. And that is what helps to draw the viewer eye, so we can see where the areas of darkness are, and particularly here as well. Also, if you blurred your eyes while looking at it, if you can do that, for the sake of not making everything flat, you want to make sure that probably most of your scene is in darkness, because darkness is as important as light. Now, when I say in darkness, it doesn't have to be completely dark. Even things like this, where we have the shadow elements running along, they're adding visual interest to darker areas. Maybe let's do one more for this video. So let's check out 55. Where's that? 55, a nice one. So this is Miles Morales' bedroom. This one isn't too complex. I mean, it looks kind of complex on the surface, but it's not really. It's just a basic room, and it's only filled with storytelling. That's pretty much it. The point is to try and convey the personality of Miles and the things he's interested in. And actually, in a way, this is a good exercise. If you had a character and you wanted to kind of just like flesh out their personality, you can ask the question, what would their bedroom look like? I've seen one or two like bedroom type artworks on the Blender Artists website. I think I mentioned one in a video on the main channel. They're great symbolic storytelling exercises. I mean, it's kind of obvious. We see that Miles is very much into engineering and sciencey things. We see that with like all the filaments, the screws, the printing, the loose wires, the cabling, sewing machine for the Spider-Man suit, etc. Has a lot on his mind, a lot of notes, a lot of tasks, likes comic books, interested in reading, all of that. A bit messy, unorganized, again, a lot going on in his mind, but also a sense of whimsy and fun. Likes artwork. I mean, that's also represented elsewhere in the story, and is likely a student as well. Another thing that's a good exercise is, and I know many people have done this, is to kind of recreate your own bedroom or any room you like in a different style in 3D. It's a good exercise because you can do it either in a stylized way or a realistic way. And if you do aim for realism, then you already have the source right there with you, if it's a room that you own. So it's something you can source and sample from. If you want to get texture information, take it in real life, use it in 3D. And it's something you can really push as far as you want to and make it as fun as you want to. See what it's like to replace furniture in the room, different type of artwork, try different camera angles, see what that looks like. And I think you'll be surprised with how much a space can change just with some subtle adjustments. So I think that's where we'll leave it for this one. If you made it this far through the video, please put, I would say a spider related emoji, but I don't really like spiders that much. So put a web emoji in the comments to show me if you made it this far. If you're on Windows, by the way, the Windows key and the period key will bring up an emoji keyboard. If you want to help support my work and get access to the reference files, you can sign up to my Patreon at patreon.com/CurtisHolt. I should say though, if you want to get the reference files, once you're logged into the Patreon, go to curtisholt.online/members. This is basically my area where you can track the links for where things can be accessed and downloaded. So thank you for watching everyone. Stay safe and I'll see you next time.